undergrad, I went to Antioch College in Yellow Springs, Ohio. And I remember coming home and, having dinner with my family and grandmother and parents and my sisters at the dining room table. And so I made an announcement. I'm a Marxist. And my grandmother said the more education they get, the dumber they get. But anyway, when I'm training in psychiatry and looking for the answer to be an effective psychiatrist with Black people, looking for the answer to racism. And I remember attending a Black Power Committee meeting. And as a matter of fact, I was doing a fellowship in child psychiatry at that point. And I would get a voice. And if you get a voice in here, you need to see a psychiatrist. If you get a voice in here, I think that's God talking to you. And the voice would say, and I would be writing up cases at the end of the day, and the voice would say, go to a Black Power Committee meeting. Just quietly. It wasn't frightening. So when ministers say they get a calling, I kind of know what they mean. And so this would happen over and over and over again. Again, it was subtle, very subtle, nothing to shake you up or anything, because I didn't go to meetings. And so I finally went to a Black Power Committee meeting. And after the meeting, people were sitting in somebody's apartment eating African food. And a gentleman was on the other side of the room. And I heard this man say, mind you, I'm looking for further answers to racism. And I hear this gentleman over there in the other corner saying, racism is a system. And it's like my mind, I'm looking for, they say when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And so I started talking to this person. The gentleman's name was Neely Fuller Jr. He wasn't a college professor. He was a guard at the Bureau of Engraving in the District of Columbia, where they print the money. And this man had started writing about racism in the mid-1950s when he was in the Korean War. And he said he was seated on his station was on a radar site up in the mountains in Japan. And he started thinking about racism and thinking about what was going on in this country, in this part of the world. And he said that the language of segregation and desegregation didn't make much sense on that mountaintop. And he started thinking that racism is a system. Now I want to repeat after me. Racism is a system. Now I consider this gentleman one of the most profound thinkers of any color in the 20th century. Remember, we started the 20th century with our great sociologist, historian, Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois. And Dr. Du Bois told us in his book, Souls of Black Folks, in 1903, that the problem of the 20th century is the question of the color line between the lighter and darker races of mankind. And then mid-century, Neely Fuller Jr. came along with his book, and I hope that everybody will get his book who doesn't have a copy. His phone number is 202-484-5461. But it is a profound statement, analysis of looking at racism as a total system structure that functions in all areas of people activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. for the ultimate purpose of maintaining the power equation of white power over a relative non-white powerlessness. So being a psychiatrist, and at that point, that's the, mid-1970s, late 1960s. We would sit up in my apartment, and that was when, you're at an age you can sit up and debate till 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning and get up and go to work. That's not the case today. But I would listen to the discussion of Mr. Fuller. We had another colleague, Dr. Carl Hutchinson. He's deceased, Chicago physician. He was training in orthopedic surgery. And Mr. Fuller had a beautifully hand-printed, might have had 1,800 pages of beautifully handwritten notes, documentation of his ideas that he carried around in his suitcase. Dr. Carl Hutchinson said, "I will type this manuscript in between surgical cases." And so he took the handwritten manuscript and typed it, and I spent the next 17 years saying, this has got to be printed, so, got to be published, and so by 1984, it was published. But I started raising the question. Psychiatrists always, old school psychiatrists, I say new school psychiatrists, are just supposed to, oh, you're depressed? Well, let me write a prescription. You see, oh, you're anxious? Let me write a prescription and goodbye. I'll see you next time for another 15 minutes. I'm old school. I see all my patients for 1 hour. I believe that you have to talk to people and understand and then help them understand so that they can graduate from the psychiatrist and go forward because they now understand reality in a different way. So I started saying, well, why? If indeed, and I say racism as a dynamic, racism as white supremacy has been the reality that black people all over this planet have faced for the last 500 years. There's never been a moment, there's never been a minute, there's never been a day, there's never been a week where we have not been confronted with racism, white supremacy as a system. Never a half a minute. So I said, well, why would such a system be developed? And Mr. Fuller used to say to me, Frances, it's not important why, just learn what the system is. But, the psychiatrist in me, I got to understand why. See, that's where little children are brilliant. Little 2-year-old people, little 3-year-old people, they start saying, why? Why? And older people get annoyed, shut up. But don't ever tell a child. If a child is saying, why, mommy? Why, granny? Why? You may not know the answer. Just tell the child, I don't know the answer, but I'll try to find out for you. And if I don't find out and you study and learn, you'll find out. But the question why is what turns on the brain computer. The child is asking about cause and effect. And if you can begin to understand cause and effect, you begin to get a handle on dealing with reality. So I raised the question, well, why this reality of racism? As I said, my grandfather died in 1909, and he's talking about the problem of color. Dr. Du Bois talked about it in 1903. Every black person that has been of significance to black people has tried to grapple with what was happening, what was causing us to be oppressed, and raising issues or raising discussion about it. So I tell people, Mind you, I have the question in the back of my brain computer, why would they do it? And I was actually in my kitchen cooking hands in dishwater, and the computer came with the answer. And what I started thinking about was things that were said within the system. Number one, the system said that we, as people of color, were minorities. And the other emphasis that was even greater than the factor, the numerical factor, was that we were supposed to be genetically inferior to people who classified themselves as white. Now I say, spend as much time in school as you can, spend as much time in the libraries as you can, spend as much time in bookstores as you can. Reading, repeat after me, reading, is more important than watching TV. Say it again. Reading is more important than watching TV. See, everything is in books. Everything is in books. And I say beware of these little small things that you can hold in your hand, where you think you're getting as much information as if you're holding a book. Just beware. So with all of the reading and all of the going to school that I had done, I said, wait a minute. People of color on this planet are the overwhelming majority. Black, brown, red, and yellow people are 9/10 majority on this planet. The other thing, that we are supposed to be genetically inferior, and I said, well, wait a minute. See, in my mind, I'm talking to my, wait a minute. Black people, people of color, are genetically dominant in terms of skin coloration compared to people who classify themselves as white. And I said, I've got it. Just like that, standing in the kitchen, cooking, hands in the dishwater. I said, this is the answer. So let me put it on the board. See if you all can see this. Let's say this is the planet Earth. Can you all see? Okay. So 9/10 of the people are black, brown, red, and yellow. 1/10 of the people have white skin. Instead of the people being genetically inferior, the people who can produce the black pigment melanin are genetically dominant. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, you haven't taken a course in genetics, just look at our president, Barack Obama. The president's mother is white. His father is black. Because the ability to produce that black pigment is dominant, and the inability is a recessive genetic trait. So black plus white could only produce black. Are you all with me? So I said, now what am I doing? Let's say that this is planet Earth and this is Europe. And this is 1492. And Columbus started European people coming out and moving, little boats coming out of Europe, beginning to circumnavigate the planet. Every place these white gentlemen landed, they found colored people. colored people everywhere.